Hey, happy Monday, everybody. So, I'm hoping everybody saw Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Otherwise, you're going to get spoiled pretty heavy because that's what today's episode is. It's a special, as you see the Capes and Cowls logo. This is a special Big Thing Capes and Cowls episode. On Monday, I got the crew here. I got both Winston and Coy as we're going to dive deep into the sequel to Black Panther. It is Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Director Ryan Coogler returns in this MCU continuation. So we're excited about it, excited to talk about it. And we're also excited because, as you see on the bottom there, man, Carbon Health. They sponsored this episode, and we love Carbon Health. We're very excited to be working with Carbon Health, and we've been working with them for quite a bit now. Now, if you're not familiar with Carbon Health, they have over 110 locations nationwide, 80 locations in California, the Bay Area, Los Angeles, Sacramento, and North San Diego. They have urgent care needs at all locations. You can start a relationship with a professional that you can trust to take care of yourself before a major issue arises. Things like screenings that we should start having before we approach our 40s especially. You can get testing, and they believe that everyone deserves a healthcare provider who is an active partner supporting you in your efforts to feel better and live healthier. They have care teams that support, and they have resources that they need to be able to focus and build a relationship with you. We love them. We've been working with them since the Schmodown Spectacular, and they're great. They've been a great partner. We're very supportive in what they're doing and what their mission is, and we're big fans, and we're excited to be working with Carbon Health. So make sure you check out Carbon Health in the description. Also, make sure that you're getting yourself one of those shirts, man. You can get a Big Thing shirt. You can get Capes and Cowls. You can get Sith Council. All of them. Make sure you get them there. If you haven't joined Patreon, patreon.com/thebigthingshow. A lot of fun stuff over there. We did a rewatch of the original Black Panther, myself, Winston, and Coy. You can find that now. We have Q&As. I do my one-on-ones with people. I'm doing a podcast with somebody, a patron, which is really exciting as well, too. So all that and more, everybody. It is the Black Panther Wakanda Forever. Let's do it, everybody. It's the spoiler. Welcome back, everybody. Black Panther Wakanda Forever, the latest in the MCU, the 77th film.
This year.
This is year. So we'll be talking about this at length. We haven't actually really discussed, to be honest. I mean, I saw it with Winston, so I'm pretty confident I have an idea of what he thought about the film overall, and we've talked a little bit about story points and stuff too, but not a full deep dive. But Coy, I haven't talked to about it at all, so I'm pumped to do so. And once again, we have Coy Jandro here, Winston A. Marshall.
We're the whites, baby, and we're the Wakanda whites.
Winston had a great moment that no one was talking about yet because I was one of the few people to witness it. So we were at the screening, and the credits are about to start, and as they were, at the premiere, and it's quiet, dead silent, and Winston in a pure Wakandan accent, "Wakanda Forever!" The place goes nuts.
Oh, it was great.
It was great timing. It was good because sometimes I don't like when people yell in theaters when they don't get a reaction, and it's like, shut up, stupid. But
I forgot I did that.
You felt it out.
It was good timing.
It was
because
right before it started, because the beginning is like so heavy.
It was right before it started, and so the timing of it worked well, and the place erupted in applause.
So it was before the credits, not closing credits.
It wasn't. No. It was right as the movie was starting.
Great.
And it really worked. It got people in the mood because, like I said, there's sometimes that people scream to try to get it. His reasoning behind it was exactly the response that he got. So it was a warranted response. But anyway, so I will tell you this as I will start, and then I want to throw it to my colleagues here. I like this movie a lot, and one of the reasons I like this movie a lot is because it as we've been talking about it, whether it be She-Hulk or Thor: Love and Thunder or a lot of these movies, I think they've kind of lost their way, and I know a lot of people like the ending of She-Hulk. I hated that major peek behind the curtain because I think it takes away from the fantasy of this world and thinking that everything's real. Black Panther, Wakanda Forever puts you right back there. It is that thing that I fell in love with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that tone and that feel. And there would be so many points that we talk about inside of this, but my things that I loved were the constant theme of loss, that is continuous, that has been consistent all in Phase 4, even in movies like Thor, Love and Thunder. That is there. The performances, I think that both the cast and the characters in real life really built on each other and relied on each other to tell a story. There was emotion. When the humor was there, it worked well. It was earned. There's so many different other positives that I have. My negatives that I want to get your responses on. Obviously, my negatives were it's too long. It's about 15 minutes too long. And one of the reasons I think that is, there's two things, and again, spoiler right now that I can actually say. I was being a little cryptic in my non-spoiler. As much as I understand where they're going with Ironheart, I thought it was unnecessary. I thought it was completely unnecessary. I get the mentor stuff. I get it. I understand it. But to me, it felt like, hey, this is our new show we're going to be promoting. Here's this whole thing that we need to be doing with Shuri right now and building up on it. When she's on screen and the loss and everything, it works great. And her relationship with Okoye is a great dynamic, and I wish we would have had a little bit more of that. I think the idea that Ironheart's flying around in the suit at the end, like that easy, was a little, I don't know. Martin Freeman, which you're going to bring up as well too. I like that he's in the movie, obviously, from the first one, but again, his story also seemed like they were just trying to build things up, and it almost seemed a little unnecessary. I thought Winston Duke was pushed to the side. I loved him in the movie, but I felt like the character of M'Baku should have had a lot more to do. He had such a big arc in that first movie with T'Challa and everything, and I felt like he was just pushed to the side for like comic relief, like banging on sticks and stuff too, and I'm like, he's so good, he's so charismatic, I wanted more of him. But that's a whole mix of soup, what I just had. There's a lot of good and just a little bad. But Winston, let me start with you. Anything, any retorts, or any, and before even retorts, more so like your overall thoughts?
I genuinely really enjoyed this movie. Someone asked me after the premiere if I liked it more than the first, and I wasn't able to put into words how I felt. I saw it again last Monday for the screenings that we have. Saw Koi there. And so I got more perspective to having a second viewing with it, and I was able to really digest everything and kind of figure all that out. I like the first one more, but I do love this movie. I disagree, and we've talked about this about Ironheart, and the reason why is because Shuri had to switch and then essentially take the role of T'Challa of being kind of the main focus of everything. Then all of a sudden Riri takes the position that Shuri had, where she's the younger sister, where there is like this kind of mentorship, where she's the fresh mind. It's not that Shuri isn't still brilliant, she is, but that the fresh ideas, there's multiple times where Riri is the one that is able to come up with something, and Shuri goes, I didn't even think about that. And then they kind of go from there. So I thought that was a key element, because one of the major things that really was so strong in that first one, and why this was so painful and it worked, that relationship between T'Challa and Shuri, that brother and sister relationship, that mentorship, that companionship, you saw a lot of that stuff mirroring, which was really interesting. And I also love that Ryan does his homework. A lot of those shots with Riri did mirror shots from the OG Iron Man. So like, oh shit, she's got an Iron Man suit. Like the fact that like, and it looks very similar to the old one that he had in that first cave. The fact that like, instead of the icing problem, she had an oxygen problem, something that she had to solve, stuff like that. It was very interesting that Ryan paid homage to those moments with Riri. For me, it's fully Martin Freeman's storyline. He needs to be in the movie because of what he was in the first Black Panther. But the storyline they went with him, I know that the with the Valentina, you're kind of building more and more, but it, to me, that felt like that we're trying to sell you something already, because the fact that she's a director of something, you could have done that with the one scene and been done with it, and yet we went on and on and on with this, and that was where I think you trimmed the fat.
So I personally, I'm actually surprised you didn't like the runtime. I liked the runtime because it reminded me of Eternals, where as a movie, I wasn't watching a movie, I was experiencing. Like I leaned back and it washed over me. And I really, it took me, Greg Alba, he's like, I don't want to tell you anything that'll affect you. I don't want to give you a single spoiler. What I want to do is tell you how to watch this. And I was like, what does that mean? He's like, I want you to, as soon as you sit down, not try to pick it apart, not try to like find stuff. I want you to let it wash over you. And that helped me so much with its experience as a piece of art versus me being like, comic. So it was nice. And I think the runtime allowed for more of that. I think if it was shorter, there were moments that I wanted more of. There were moments that I felt like they were having a really dramatic moment. Like, we got to get back to the fight. Or like, we're having a fight. We've got to go to the other fight. Between the two of you with the Ironheart, and I feel like those are the two main things you guys. My negative I'm going to get to in a second, but I want to address those two. I personally felt like the Martin Freeman, that to me helped me feel like the global scope of, we now know about Wakanda. We need the Americans to be like, let's take advantage as soon as we can. And if we didn't have him as a good guy watching the Wakandans' backs, I don't think it would have worked for where we go with the relationships. It would have just felt like a war is looming too soon. Sure. And I think that, like, without Martin Freeman as like, they saved my life, if it was just a scene or two, it would have been like, that feels undercooked. Whereas I feel like you need a full subplot. That way you've got the looming threat of invasion.
I agree with that, but I think what Winston's also saying, though, is that maybe the story with him should have been different then.
Right.
If that's the case. I mean, I know that, and that's also easier to say, especially now that they want to use that from what we know for going into potentially the Wakanda TV series. I think that if the Wakanda TV series, it's kind of like basically contradicting my other point with the Ironheart thing, but I think that if the series is indeed the battle between the U.S. and Wakanda as far as what they're trying to do, then I understand that storyline because it's building up to the show.
Keeping it at bay, yeah.
It still means that they used now two storylines to further future projects as opposed to just focusing in,
right? Because
I think that the more important, and you did have two separate stories, because you had the story of Shuri and trying to come into, you had more than two. You had Okoye, who is, and let's Lupita Nyong'o's character, Nakia, who comes back, and the way that they introduce her, the understanding and the question of, well, where was she during the blip, and the understanding why, because she had T'Challa's son and all of that, and that made a lot of sense to me. So all of those stories along that focus on those, and then we're not even talking about the fact that one of the main stories, one of the main stories, Namor, with his whole story and the way that they built.
So that's my flaw. I want to get to my negative.
Yeah.
Interesting.
My thing is that this is a time where I think that the Namor they used in the movie is exactly what the movie needed and is exactly the right character for the movie and the story told. But at no point did I feel like that was Namor.
Interesting, because I agree with you. He is not, obviously, because they took certain liberties. He is not the Namor of the comics, but I have always hated Namor in the comics.
That's the point of Namor.
No, but see, that's the thing.
He's charming. This dude is like, Sue Storm sleeps with this guy. You're like, that makes sense.
No. But what they did, which I thought was brilliant, is they made Namor very similar to a Killmonger in that it was like, I understand why you're trying to burn it all down.
100%.
And I bought that. I don't.
The thing about Namor is you're reluctant to like him because he's such an ass, but he's right. This guy's just right a lot of the time. Like, at no point was he condescending. At no point was he arrogant. The first
I don't know
word
if he wasn't arrogant.
He was very arrogant.
He was confident.
Arrogant.
But I didn't never felt he was arrogant.
Arrogant? He walked in, dude.
I'm arrogant.
When he walks into and he starts talking, and we're not even talking about Angela Bassett. It should be.
Oh my God, that Oscar.
She should be
She's gonna
nominated.
get
Yeah,
nominated.
well, yeah, we haven't gotten to the good yet.
Yeah. But when he walks up to her and he's just basically, oh yeah. So you're gonna do this for us. He's about as cocky and arrogant as you get.
Yeah.
But at no point did I feel like he made anything that was self-serving. It was always for his kingdom. And I think you need to judge if Namor is choosing for himself or his kingdom.
But you're talking about two different things. There's arrogant and there's selfish.
Fair. But at no point did I feel like he wasn't being a good king.
Again, you can be a good king and still be arrogant.
Sure.
So I think he was a good king. I think I don't think his approach was maybe the best for his people. I think he could have probably gotten to where he was at the end had he done a little bit more.
But he was
talking.
just straight up hospitable. Like, he was like a good host. He showed her around. Like, that's not Namor.
But he's okay. That I can't argue with because I don't know. I'm just saying from the points that you're making that he did show a lot of those qualities as far as arrogance, as far as those types of things. But he was looking out for his people. He wasn't. If the character was in the comics is selfish,
the character is almost an anti-hero,
and is more about himself, then I didn't feel that for this character. But again, I wasn't comparing anything. I just got off what I got off of screen.
So on top of that, though, I'm going to take I can't believe I'm doing this. I'm going to take a line out of Christian's book in that, like, well, we're telling a different story. So we don't always. I cannot believe I'm admitting this. We don't always have to go, well, that's how it was in the comics, in the sense that, God, I want to kill myself right now. Just in the sense that You decided to tell a very different story. And what I love about it in particular, and we were talking about this outside of the theater, Ryan does a very, and I also talk about this in my review, Ryan does a very good job of taking the Black experience and infusing it into his movies. Fruitville Station, that complicated life to like
Music,
live through stuff.
The music alone.
Absolutely. Yeah. Creed, the idea of like your father's legacy, and if your father's not around, all that kind of stuff. Obviously, the first Black Panther, the idea of Malcolm versus Martin, and that idea with T'Challa and Killmonger and what colonization did and didn't do. You had, and in this particular case, not only did you show a beautiful like brown society, and same thing, what colonization did, and then that kind of pushback, and how when you have systems messing you up like that, it causes you to react certain ways.
Yeah.
It's also then the standpoint of when you're dealing with trauma and somebody else is dealing with trauma, you think you would get along and you would immediately talk, but all it takes is one misunderstanding and you immediately go to a place of you're trying to F me over too.
Right.
And then you have that horizontal oppression of Black versus brown, and that's what it was. The same way you would see a Black and a brown neighborhood at wars with each other, it's Wakanda versus Telocan,
right.
And it was a beautiful metaphor to do that and to go into that. It had me gripped.
And I think that's why you need the Martin Freeman story as big as it was, because then if it's Black versus brown, the white people watching to see who they're going to take advantage of. Like, that's like the people like waiting to make a move. Like, that's why you need that storyline to not be a one note. Like, you needed the amount of it, I think.
I understand that. I think what my issue is that I didn't always feel that that's what the focus was. It felt more about we're trying to make sure that you understand that Valentina is like the big bad.
Yeah,
right
I
now.
got that more so than I think your point. To be honest, I think more so that they were looking at, because Martin Freeman is clearly there to be there for Wakanda.
But that's why you got Richard Schiff, though. That's why you've got you got the French lady.
Right.
Like, it all felt like people waiting to take advantage.
Absolutely, where they were trying at that point trying to capitalize on certain things too. But I think that was more so than just, to be honest, I think it was more so than just a play. I don't think that's what Ryan Coogler was saying. It's just a play on the bad white people. I think it was more so that it was a play on that. People taking advantage and power.
Well, I'm saying as soon as you got two people fighting, you've got a group waiting to see who fails. That
I agree with.
But my opening about the con was that's exactly what you said. Not everything has to be like the comics, and like this is the Namor of Wakanda Forever. This is the character that was the exact right character for this movie, and like I rated this movie very highly, but I don't think that Namor will be able to be the Namor of the comics in any other property.
Right.
Like, he won't be able to be the Fantastic Four third wheel with Sue Storm and Reader.
But they did confirm him as the first mutant.
They did do that, and I disagree. And I think the reason why I disagree is because you had the flirtation with Shuri. So that's the beginning of being able to see Namor. Okay, well, he'd be trying to talk to the ladies and stuff like that.
But Reed Richards is kind of a dick, so at this point I'll be like, yeah, go with Namor. Like, I feel like Namor is too likable and good and righteous.
What Ryan leaned into, and I appreciate that, they leaned into Namor, like, again, if it's representing a brown culture, they leaned into machismo. That is what he was doing the whole movie, and so I can see the exact same thing happening when Sue comes along, where he's just like, why are you trying to do with the goofy white boy? I run a whole kingdom. Come roll with me, girl.
And this guy's overthinking everything.
Yeah.
And I hope I'm proven wrong by seeing Namor in another capacity and being like, okay, there that is. I just found myself being like, this doesn't feel like how I've ever perceived Namor. And again, adaptation versus translation. Fair. It was exactly correct for the movie, so it's not faulting the movie. It was just an experience.
Your comparison of what you know of the character.
Exactly.
For sure.
So like, I'm not making the movie drop a letter grade or anything because of a thing. It's just an experience I had that was like, that's not what I wanted.
You had an idea of what you hoped to see when Namor finally came out.
And then it wasn't
it. So it was a letdown. I think that's totally fair, and I think that happens a lot too. Now, I don't know how you guys are with gifts, but I'm terrible. I'm really bad. I need people to help me and give me some good ideas, because I'm average when it comes to picking out gifts. So I was so excited when I heard that Uncommon Goods was coming to the show. I'm going to start sponsoring the show. It's pretty awesome, because if you don't want to get just the boring, basic, and bland gifts and disappoint people, Uncommon Goods, it's the secret weapon. It's really exciting, these holiday gifts that they have, and it's so different and unique. You go and just browse, and you'll see stuff. I was on the site for a while, and I don't do that. I was really spending a lot of time just saying, oh, that's a really cool gift. That's interesting. That's different. They're very unique gifts. And whether you're shopping for your Secret Santa or your entire family, Uncommon Goods knows exactly what they want. So there's a couple things. I got a cheese board for my wife, and I got a little necklace and everything for it too. It's really cool. Little sweet little gifts. I like it. So when you're shopping at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small independent businesses. They're fine products, and they're made in small batches. So shop now before they sell out this holiday season. I'm telling you, spend some time on this site. You're really going to like it, especially now because I know you're all shopping right now for gifts. Check it out. Uncommon Goods looks for products that are high quality, they're unique, and they're often handmade or made in the U.S. They have the most meaningful and out-of-the-ordinary gifts anywhere. They really do. Art, jewelry, kitchen, home, bar. I told you, I got a cheese board. So you get 15% off your next gift. Go to uncommongoods.com/bigthing, uncommongoods.com/bigthing, and you get 15% off. Don't miss out on this limited time offer. It's Uncommon Goods. We're all out of the ordinary. I'm telling you, man, use that link in the description. You're going to thank me. Because you're looking for gifts right now. I know you are. Browse on the site. You'll find something, I promise. Just click on that link in the description. You'll love it. Yes, leaning into also what Coy said, I didn't know anything about him. I had said, I guess this is the Marvel's version of Aquaman, and I guess he came first.
Yes,
Right.
Namor was first.
So I didn't even know. So I was like, okay, fine. I just knew that they both talk to fish. So either way. So I didn't know what to expect from him. I just heard a lot of great things. Now, do I think the actor was good in the role? I do. Do I think the character was good? Do I think he was one of the most compelling characters ever in the MCU? No, not even in the top 15. Not even in the top.
Wow.
He's not. Out of all the characters we had, he was good, but he wasn't in the top 15 as far as he was. It wasn't anything like so groundbreaking that I'm like, oh man, I'm going to remember this character forever. I thought that it was more about the Wakandans joining together, and basically I said I like the parallel of the real world of the idea that here's this cast that was so attached to this man in Chadwick Boseman, and obviously the charisma that he had, that they had to figure out a way to make this work without him. And that's what the people of Wakanda also had to do when their king died. So I really thought that was great, but I will say this also, and this is no fault to any of the actors, because there's a reason Chadwick Boseman was a star that he was, because he had that thing. It was very clear he was missing in this movie.
I can agree with you in the sense that I remember watching the first Black Panther and thinking to myself, I was like, man, this isn't even really a story about T'Challa at all. Like, it's everyone else. It's Killmonger, it's Shuri, it's M'Baku. I was like, this is not... He's almost playing backseat to everyone else in my mind. And then I watched this movie, and again, very good movie, and I enjoyed it, but all of a sudden... exactly what I felt. I was like, oh shit, something is kind of missing.
You're missing his presence.
And it doesn't make this a bad movie.
No.
If anything, for me, and I was talking to Coy about this is actually my favorite movie of Phase 4.
Yeah, I could see that. Over Spider-Man? Okay.
And my reasoning for that is that Spider-Man, each viewing afterwards, as good of a movie as it is, and it is a very good movie, it leans so heavily on the gimmick of bringing in all of the villains, bringing in all of the Spider-Men, that like without that, a lot of it doesn't hit quite as hard for me.
Sure. But I think what it is that this is why I think the movie it's the same. It's funny. The reason why I think this movie is so good is because the idea that it's really an ensemble piece. Now, the Shuri is the star of the movie, and I think she's a good actress. She doesn't have that same thing that he has. She's not a movie star. Chadwick Boseman was a movie star, right? Now, I'm not saying she didn't do a great job. She did a great job, but she got, it's one of those things. It's also, it's like when the president of the, and I don't want to say that she's Lyndon B. Johnson, but when Kennedy went out, he got the job and had to step in. That's what happened here. He passed away. She had to take the job because that was what the story that Ryan Coogler came in, and she crushed it. She did great. They wouldn't have based a movie if Chadwick Boseman did, the movie wouldn't have been about her, right? But it was, and she did a great job. But they relied on each other, and that's what I thought. That's why I loved the movie, because I really enjoyed the movie because it didn't really have, it didn't have to rely on that one person. They bonded together, and I think that's what made the movie special.
I really love that the movie made you feel the grief of Chadwick and T'Challa. I love that the movie's experience was sorrow. Like the theme of the movie, the theme of all of Phase 4 has been, you know, rebirth and death and sorrow and all these things. But this movie made you feel those stages of grief. This movie made you, as an audience member, remember how much you loved the character and the actor and the experience along with the characters on screen. It was very immersive in its sorrow, and to the point where like the movie ends and you've got this weight on your chest in a very unique way. And I think one of the ways it did that was so unique and stunning was it would juxtapose incredibly stimulating fights and action and sound, and like even the talking drum was almost replaced with this chorus, this chant that's very human. Right. You have this human element, not an instrument, a human element that draws you in even deeper and deeper. And then it's punctuated with pure silence. Yep. There's such beautiful use of silence. And I love that the end of the movie mirrors the opening credits where they give us that stunning Chadwick tribute. And awesome. It's the wind. So like the silence of this film is an absence. And like, what is death if not the absence of something? And when you lose your star, when you lose your franchise's center, it's the absence. So I really respect Ryan Coogler for building something that was all of the stimuli of a Marvel movie, all of the stuff, but then trusting the punctuation of silence.
And he also trusted in his cast.
Yeah.
Right? He did.
And in us as an audience.
And Winston, I want to talk to you about Angela Bassett in just a moment. But before I do that, really excited, Athletic Greens is back. That's right. Athletic Greens is back. Ladies and gentlemen, you know how much I love Athletic Greens, and you guys have all tried it. At least a lot of you have tried it, and I keep hearing how much you loved it and how much energy you're having because of it. We love Athletic Greens. Been with them for a long time, and they're back again. And I have been taking Athletic Greens for a while now, since Brett Sheridan told me about it. And I love it. It's amazing. I use it every day. And I started taking it also because I wanted an energy improvement. I wanted, I wanted to feel good. And I'm not a big vitamins person, so this basically combines all of that. And because I didn't have the time, I wanted better gut health. I wanted more energy, the optimized immune system, all of it. So I've been doing it forever, and I feel so much better in my energy. And I think that, as I've told you guys many times over, how I feel like this is the best kind of attitude in general that I've had since doing shows. And I think Athletic Greens has a lot to do with it. So what is it? Well, with one delicious scoop of Athletic Greens, you get 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, adaptogens, the whole thing, and it starts your day right. It's a special blend of ingredients. It supports your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging, all the things. So for me, again, I do it because I'm not a big vitamins person, and I want to get all the energy, and it gives me all the energy. I love it. It's really, really great. So once again, it's lifestyle friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegan, dairy-free, gluten-free. It supports mental clarity and alertness. It supports better sleep quality, for sure. I can attest to that, and recovery. It costs you less than $3 a day, and you're investing in your health, and it's cheaper than your cold brew habit. So Athletic Greens, once again, it's having over 7,000 five-star reviews. It's recommended by professional athletes, and is trusted by leading health experts such as Tim Ferriss and Michael Gervais. Right now, it's time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. You don't need a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. So to make it easy, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/bigthing. Hear that again. And again. It's athleticgreens.com/bigthing. Take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. That's how you help the show, everybody, and help yourselves with Athletic Greens. All right. Thank you so much. And now, Winston, as I mentioned, before we went to our wonderful sponsor, you can get the link in the description. So Angela Bassett, we talked Oscar here, potential Oscar, and the power that she brings in this performance. Now, I want to go back on something that I said beforehand too, where even though I think that and give me, is it Letitia Wright?
Letitia Wright, yep.
So even though I want to make sure that I make this clear, that I think Letitia Wright is an incredible actress and did a really good job. Is that there's a certain kind of star power that not everybody has. Not everybody has, right? Angela Bassett has that. Angela Bassett has always had that. Angela Bassett brings a power to this role in a way that she didn't even do beforehand.
Bro, there's a reason why I'm obsessed with 911, which is like a cheesy firefighter cop show on Fox, is because even with her as like a sergeant, she's like, someone get on the horn and call me back up. Like, she just has that thing that you cannot take your eyes off of her. And she has moments throughout the film, obviously before she dies, but those two monologues, the one to the UN and the one in the throne room to Okoye, both of them are incredible. Both the you think we ain't got no protector, but step to Wakanda again and see what the F happens. Now take your stupid ass little soldiers, and then have I not given everything?
Right.
You like my husband, my son, and now my daughter's probably gone. No, you're done.
Right.
And you could feel her channel, and she actually said this in her interview with Variety. She said that like she really had to lean on the dialogue coach there, or the dialect coach, because she was getting so emotional channeling how she was feeling about Chad that she needed someone to check her, because she was dropping in and out of the accent because she was just going there so hard. And you could tell it was the most powerful moment, in my opinion, of the entire film, was that throne room speech.
Yeah, it absolutely it was. And I think that they both did a great job in that, and I loved how we didn't have to have Okoye. Normally what Okoye was like, okay, fine, well, I'm going to turn my back on Wakanda. She
respected the decision.
Yep. She took it.
And that scene was why I'm excited for the Wakanda show, is because I now want so much more Nakia, so much more of Okoye. And I did after Black Panther 1, but I didn't know, again, I mentioned this briefly on Friday's show, but like, this did a thing that felt like it was diving deeper into the world as opposed to spreading the world out. I feel like I got more quality of the world, not quantity of the world. So now I want to see that world on a show long form. I want to invest in Wakanda after this movie. I'm so much more curious about the culture than I already was, and I already was because of Ruthie Carter and because of the production designers and everything.
I'm so curious what this movie would have been like with Kaluuya, because he had too much going on with Nope. That scheduling conflicted, so they just wrote him out, and they obviously had the one line of like, I lost my husband. She stood up to her husband. It's like, yeah, but if she wanted to, she could go and see him right now, implying he's in jail somewhere.
Right.
So like, I'm so curious, because I guess that's the same thing, is that Daniel, apparently the whole cast was very close to Chad, and same thing, reading that interview that Letitia apparently didn't. She thought it was a bad joke. She had, like, all of her phones were blown up with texts of people being like, I'm so sorry. She thought it was a joke. So she called Chad multiple times. He didn't answer. She called Daniel and was like, yo, where's brother? Like, what the F's going on? And she's like, Letitia, he's gone. Yeah. So, like, I think the other thing that would have helped, even though he wasn't the star of the film, I think having him there, too, would have added a very unique element to the film if he could have been in.
Well, yeah, that was, I mean, again, that was I understand where they went. I think that the decision that they made and the story that they told, I get it. As I said, it was about the cast all leaning on each other and really focusing in on the women as well to be the power of the movie. And I think it was the right choice. But Daniel Kaluuya, he's a star. He's got that. He's got
absolutely.
Now, but it doesn't mean that you have to write him into the thing, and you should have made the story about him. As I said, that you keep the story as it was, but there's just, you see what I'm saying? There's a difference.
Well, what's interesting is if give Winston Duke enough time, he hasn't done enough projects.
Dude,
he's
Winston
a star.
Duke is such a powerhouse.
Do you understand why I said he was pushed aside a little bit?
I get that,
and I guess I get the reason why, because of what I just said, they wanted to focus more on the women. But
I wonder if there were scenes cut of him, because do you remember that article that came out that said like Winston Duke getting upgraded in Wakanda Forever, doing more, getting it, like I didn't feel like he's in it less, and I wonder if there was an entire more subplot.
Yeah, he's not in it less.
He shows up at the end. Well, he's in it less in the fact that, but they set him up so well in that first movie where he's trying to take over T'Challa, and T'Challa and him form a bond. Yeah, and you think, when he shows up later on and other things, but like he doesn't. I thought he was going to have. So I thought at one point he was going to be Black Panther, but. Once you present the story, and I understand why he wasn't.
I guess the thing that was interesting for me is I understand what you're saying about him being in it less, but in my mind, and actually in runtime, he's in it more, because if you think about it, he's only in the challenge. He's only in when Ramonda runs away from Killmonger, and then he's in the final battle to save him at the end. But that's it. He just steals scenes. Right. But in this, he's throughout the council the whole time. He's the one that's providing the shelter, and he's the one that's actually trying to keep Shuri from losing her mind. He becomes almost like a cousin to her to be like,
but he's
you're not wrong.
And he's great in the parts that he's in,
of course.
And I still just feel like I would have liked to see him do more, because I think that he doesn't. He's one of the few characters he doesn't have an arc. That's the main thing. he's got no arc in this. And you can say that he's working with her. He's a voice of reason for her in the same way that he's matured in that aspect. But he doesn't have an arc. Everybody else in the major players have an arc. Whether it's
even Michaela Cole does.
They all have arcs. He doesn't have an arc. That was the. I think that's why I felt like he was pushed to the side because his story
and his arc starts the last moment. Like he's about to and I can't wait for that. Like that's one of the things I want from Black Panther 3 is to see if the title of king and the Black Panther title are separate for once. Like that's what I'm curious about because usually that's something you fight for both. Are they going to have a king of Wakanda while Black Panther is Shuri? Like is that something we deal with the politics of that? Like the geopolitical landscape of having a protector,
which would be interesting.
That'll be great.
And I think that he was sacrificed. His role was sacrificed, as you see when it comes to the writing of it. Maybe because what are you going to say? What are you going to put another 15 minutes in this 3-hour movie? Yeah. That's where I feel like, did we have to tell the Ironheart story here? And their answer is yes, we did because we have our Disney Plus show coming out.
But I do agree with the sister thing. I really like the sister.
I mean, I understand why they did it and they put it together and inside of the writing, it made sense for it. But I just think that if you lost it, would you have lost a piece of that movie? I don't think you would have. I think that I understand why it's in there. I agree with both your points as far as why it's in there and how it plays into the story. It doesn't feel meaningless, but it did feel like promotion to it. And I feel like if you lost it, you still had that the moment between Okoye and Shuri, that you had that sister moment where they could have formed a different thing together. Then you just didn't need.
I get it. I guess part of it in that regard, and you can write it differently, but Riri became the center of the plot point in the film. Yeah. I mean, literally, with her being her machine, Namor being like, I want her dead so that she can't, you know what I mean? So she kind of became that central plot. But I hear you and what you're saying in that. I think the big takeaway, I agree that I would have loved some more M'Baku. I don't know how you, without it getting cheesy and getting too giant MCU with it, if there was a way to bring in more Michael B. Jordan, which was a beautiful accent. Yeah. It was a beautiful accent. It was shocking. I was not ready for that.
I knew he was going to show up somehow for two reasons. One, he was at the premiere. That's probably that could have just been there for support, for sure. So that's why. But two, he is a good luck charm for Ryan Coogler.
Also true.
He's been in every single movie. He was showing up one way or another. Now I did not think he was going to show up in that capacity.
I love that.
That was a beautiful usage.
Yeah, the way that they used it in the reveal was great.
And he looked like his comic appearance, which made me so happy. That was a moment where I was like, okay, this is for us, like for comic nerds. Yeah, like that was so cool.
The way that they did that was not expected. It's like, oh wow, that's who she sees. Interesting, because I didn't know. You felt everybody in that theater going, are they going to deep fake Chadwick? Are they going to use? You said it too. Was they going to use footage that maybe he shot before he passed? Like, what are they going to do? Are they going to do what they did with like Carrie Fisher? I
was wondering if it was going to be Sterling, as a father figure, like Sterling K. Brown comes in, and like you have a figure.
So the idea of this kind of, and that's why, as I say, like because what I thought, and I'm going to go back on some of the stuff that I said. Well, not really, because I think Letitia Wright had an amazing performance in this movie. So I don't take that away. I think what she did really well. I like the second half of this movie significantly more than the first because I feel like she really she powers. She becomes that star that I'm talking about inside of it. She owns the second half of the movie, and it's that she goes to the dark side, for that split second, or even a little bit more than that split second. She
uses it. She stays there for evolution.
A little bit. She doesn't let it overpower her, and she takes it, but she uses it. She uses it. I would have liked to seen a descent into that more throughout the movie. And Winston actually off camera made a really great point. He said one of the main reasons that she kind of teeters on it is while Angela Bassett is still around. And once Angela Bassett gets killed off, that's when she snaps. And I get that. And I think that I still would have liked to seen a couple little more hints throughout it, a little bit more of the darkness to where but she still kept at bay.
Yeah, it was interesting because each one of the people in her life, and she said it, that the last person that truly knows me is gone as far as Ramonda when she dies. But each one of those people in her life, the advisors, like Okoye, M'Baku, Killmonger, even they each represent kind of a different element of the parts of the 5 stages of grief.
Yeah.
Obviously Killmonger just straight up with the anger part of it. Yep. That is what was brought out of her and whatnot. But like with M'Baku, remember at first he was like, let's just kill this fish man.
Right.
And then all of a sudden he was like, but I do not want war. And that was like the bargaining part. Like, let's maybe not go right head first into this. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so each one of those elements, her mom really representing the acceptance part. So her mom tried to get her to do it before and she couldn't. So then when she was actually gone, and literally the one thing that stopped her from eternal war between Talokan and Wakanda is thinking her mom had abandoned her, comes to her at the very last moment and is like, no, baby girl, show them who you are.
Right.
And that's what keeps her from fully losing it. And I thought that was just so brilliant to anchor people to the stages of grief for her.
Yeah, that was a really good moment, and it's also the other moment is the main moment that we should obviously talk about. Is it's weird because one of the producers said there's no post-credit scene. Well, there is. There's one post-credit,
and it's also I think some of the best acting in the MCU.
It's a mid post-credit scene, so I don't know. Maybe he meant additional post-credit. I don't know what he was talking about, but he said there's no post-credit scene. Well, there is. There's a mid-credit scene, and it's a major scene, and that's obviously the reveal, because everyone was wondering, are they going to recast T'Challa, or what are they going to do? This was their answer on how they're going to do it. T'Challa has a son named T'Challa.
Yeah.
So, and we find that out, and it's a really great scene. Again, re-emphasizing that this is a really good performance by Letitia Wright, because she has you feel it at the end there.
What she does in the last 30 seconds before the credits, like what she's able to do in just delivering that emotion through her face stillness. And then when we come back and her going through like the glee, the sorrow, the excitement, the embrace, the acceptance, like she does so much regarding Prince T'Challa in that moment. And then that kid is just so immediately captivating. Yeah. And did you know that? Did you recognize after that he was the kid in Haiti that greets Queen Ramonda?
No.
So he's the one that greets Queen Ramonda in Haiti.
Hilarious.
So he comes up, and that's why there's familiarity.
She met.
And that's why he comes up to her familiar, and she's like, "Do you want to see the headmaster? Because he'd be trained to know that way." He's the kid that greets Queen Ramonda.
I love. So in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah.
Not the beginning.
When he goes to get
kidnapped.
Right.
When Shuri's kidnapped, and she's like, I'm going to go find someone that can handle this. So when she goes to Haiti for the first time,
he's there.
He brings her to
I didn't catch that.
That's great. So
I didn't catch that.
Was
so we'd already met him, and then the whole story about like Laurent that's a Haitian a Haitian war hero. He's someone that like overthrew corruption. So when she says he's got history in his name, it's that overthrown corruption. So he's got a legacy of names plural, which I love in the legacy of the character.
My favorite moment of that whole thing was when she's going through so many ranges of emotion inside of that meeting, where you could see, and it's a really brilliant piece of acting, because when she goes to, she asks the question if her mother ever met, the son, and it's like, she says yes, and right away, that initial question was posed, if she didn't meet her, then what? Then you didn't tell her about her, and that goes away immediately. Yeah. It's like, oh, she knew.
Full acceptance.
She knew. It's full acceptance.
And not only acceptance, but glee that she got to meet him. Like the happiness she feels.
Yeah, so hold your point. Before you do, we're going to come right back, ladies and gentlemen. I also want to tell you guys, we're very excited to be working with RUMPL blankets. Oh, I love these blankets. I told you guys, I don't know if you guys remember if you were around listening to the show when RUMPL was around last time, and I talked about how I take one of the RUMPL blankets with me to my kid's soccer game. I do it all the time. It's the most comfortable blanket. Now they sent 2 more, and I'm trying, and I have to battle with my wife to try to even get to these things. I can't even get to them. She snuggles onto the couch with them. She loves them. 2 very comfortable blankets that they had, and they're just so relaxing. And there's so many different purposes that RUMPL blankets have. RUMPL in general is just on a mission to introduce the world to better blankets, and they're doing it in the Harloff household. I'll tell you that. RUMPL applies performance materials typically found in premium outdoor gear and activewear to modernize a dated and boring category. So RUMPL products are the perfect addition for any adventure, camping, hiking, or just relaxing. And I can tell you, the relaxing part for sure. These ones that they sent, man, they are so comfortable and warm in the wintertime. Oh, it's so nice. RUMPL recycles over 5 million plastic water bottles a year. They are a certified B Corporation, which means that they are legally required to consider the impact of their decisions on their workers, customers, suppliers, community, and the environment. Every year, RUMPL offsets the entire carbon footprint of their company. It's made from discarded plastic bottles. The extra durable 100% recycled 30D polyester ripstop prevents scratches, snags, and tears. Not one. I'm telling you, I took this blanket to the soccer field. There's rocks and dirt and all this stuff. It looks like it just came out of the store every time I take it. Always clean. Always, it's durable. It's awesome. I love this blanket. I can't believe it. RUMPL products are weather resistant, durable, and most important, they're warm. I'm telling you, I wish I was. My wife's feeling a little under the weather right now, but she was gonna call in and do this ad. And I told her I was doing the RUMPL readout today. She was like, "Hey, I got to talk about RUMPL. I love RUMPL. I love them." RUMPL also has an indoor product line perfect for the couch and movie nights, and we just got it. This is what we have. From their cozy hemp blanket that is softer than your favorite hoodie to our Sherpa fleece and puffy collections, there's a blanket made for every amount of cozy. 100% Harloff backed. So now through 11/28, save 20% off at rumple.com. Use that code BIGTHINGBF to get an extra gift with the purchase. Visit rumple.com/bigthing to shop now. Use that code, though, BIGTHINGBF, and get an extra gift with the purchase. But go to rumple.com/bigthing. I'm telling you, this is a perfect gift, and it's a great cozy blanket. Watch a movie with or something. All right, so once again, thank you. Make sure you get the links in the description. And Winston, you were saying before we went to break there.
Yeah, so this is the one thing that I think is going to be really, really interesting. So I'm sure both of you are aware for the last 2 years, there has been the recast T'Challa campaign that's been going on.
Sat next to the guy who came up with it.
Exactly. E-Man Reviews. Shout out to the homie. So it was something that he said that was actually very interesting. There's been obviously a lot of vitriol from a number of folks. He has never been pushing that, but there's been a number of folks that were upset. They were like, you're going to... The talking point has been, you're going to immediately put us through trauma again because the actor died. You're just going to automatically whatever. They're like, they're already recasting, Thunderbolt Ross, but like you won't do it for T'Challa. And I have always said, and I felt that this was the way to go, was that you give some breathing room right now just out of respect for Chad, and especially what this cast is going through. And then in the next film, then wherever T'Challa's supposed to show up, you can bring somebody else in to the point you're going to get Secret Wars. Secret Wars is about bringing in incursions of all sorts. So you're going to get, you can cast whoever you want. And then this kid could just be a young T'Challa on the Young Avengers. So it's one of those things that I can, obviously we're recording this before Monday, but it's Monday now. I guarantee you there's going to be some backlash this weekend, this past weekend that just happened or is happening, whatever. Right. You know what I mean? But I genuinely hope that people not only see about this being a love letter from the cast to their dear brother, but that T'Challa's story is not over, not only because of the son that you have now introduced, but I guarantee you they will bring in an adult T'Challa because of Secret Wars, and you're still going to be able to... I think so. I genuinely think that you will find a way to, because with the Phase 4 stuff, they've already said that it's this idea of grief and rebirth, so that all of the older heroes are passing it on to the next generation, so that T'Challa will team up with the Young Avengers, I'm sure. But I think because you need to tell the stories that are coming, people have been asking, well, wait a minute, yeah, T'Challa in the comics has like flirted with and married Nakia in certain elements, but like what about Storm? And the X-Men are coming anyway, that we're talking about it probably being around Secret Wars. Those are all the different stories that you could have where that's coming in the future.
I think that your point is valid, and I think that they could do it that way if they wanted to, but I think it goes back to the same conversation we've had many times on this show, and that is inside of the bubble that we live in the geekdom bubble.
Sure.
On both Twitter, Instagram, whatever the hell it is, this space in general, I think that the casual fan doesn't really necessarily know about the T'Challa the recast T'Challa movement, right? Like I think it's popular. Yes. I think it's popular, and I think that it's caught on in enough to where there's enough people talking about it and it trends and all that. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, I think that Ryan Coogler and Feige and all of them came to an agreement.
I agree
that they're not going to recast this role, and that this is the way that they're going to do it.
To me, having Prince T'Challa means they're not personally going to do a Secret Wars adult T'Challa. And also, I personally, and I don't know if this is the way they were going to do it originally, but I wouldn't want Aurora to be introduced as the wife of, or the courting of, or the love interest of, without her getting at least a movie or two.
I don't disagree with that she should be able to stand on her own too. But I think the only difference here, because we have had these conversations about like with Superman, will they know who Black Adam is, all that kind of stuff. And the only difference here is yes, it started with nerds. And I'm not trying to be disrespectful here at all. I call myself one.
This is Capes and Cowls.
Right. it is specifically in the Black community, and it's getting bigger and bigger by the whole. There are a lot of very upset Black folks, specifically Black men, who this meant so much.
Right.
What upsets me about that is I know Ryan and that entire cast, and Feige too, but specifically Ryan, would never do anything to disrespect or abandon that.
Right.
But there's a lot of people that are mad, and to the point where if you go to almost any review, they're sitting here slamming, why are you making us go through trauma again of taking the oldest Black superhero? You always recast people, and then and now you're just gonna kill him off because this is the only exception where I would not be surprised if that happens. That's why I'm thinking they might.
It's interesting, man. I mean, it's interesting. So I'm going to go back to a point that Winston made earlier. I think that I'm up there with this and Spider-Man being...
Those are my two.
Yeah, they're up there right now. And then easily, I'm glad that they got back to form. And what I can't remember what it was, or if Feige said it, or someone said Feige said it, and he was talking about why Phase 4 was a little lighter because Phase 5 and 6 about to get a little bit more serious, and this clearly kicks us off into a serious thing. I hope that's the case. I really do hope that's the case. I think they experimented with it.
I think they were trying to keep the grief and comedy in equal measure because there's so much grief in Forward. Like the comedy had to be higher elevated, but like I'd rather it just be a balance. Like Phase 1, 2, and 3. Like we both agree that tone suits MCU more.
And that's why I hope Feige seems to be like, I hope he's listening because this was more than just angry people screaming about this. These are people who really enjoyed a lot of the stuff too going, and I talked to people who like some of the most pleasant fans ever going, yeah, I don't like Love and Thunder.
The more I look back on Phase 4, like I love when I get to see my characters on screen, period. I will use the word love, not even like love, but when I'm looking back at Phase 1, 2, and 3 versus my experience with Love and Thunder, my experience with Multiverse of Madness, I'm going to rewatch the older stuff first. Right. So like I just want more new stuff to give me that same feeling. And I don't think that's too much to ask when I love that they tried new things, but if it didn't work to scale,
don't keep doing it.
Exactly.
And
and no fault. Like great, you tried.
You took a shot. You took a shot at it. Again, bringing up like that She-Hulk thing. There were some people who really enjoyed that last episode, right? Yeah.
Interesting. So I was telling you how much Kristen was loving the show. She actually was very upset about that last episode because she was like, no, I got that they broke the fourth wall stuff, but it was the same thing she said. She's like, but then why didn't you go back and finish the story? Why the hell did you just jump to the end? She was like, I felt robbed. Why was I here this whole time?
And that's why I think there was a great shift here with this movie, because this movie felt like those movies. Like
Ant-Man looks harrowing. That's February.
Yes, and Ant-Man looks like a return to the same type of feel within humor. And I hope, look, Ant-Man 2 for me had the same problem that a lot of these other movies have had, and that wasn't in Phase 4. That was in Phase 3 or whatever it was. And it was everybody gets a joke, and no matter who it was, like Ant-Man had the same. I had the same issue with that. The trailer for the new one looks like that balance that we're looking for. This movie, though, overall,
I like that. Also, sorry to interrupt. I like that overall. This one didn't feel the need to. It trusted us to be sad, and that was kind of what I was talking about with the sorrow. There was like jokes, but it wasn't.
But it worked. The comedy were like when M'Baku would come in and say some jokes. The outfit when Okoye is wearing the outfits and when Riri was making, that was funny. When that whole thing when they come in there and the comedy of that, it all worked because and even though I don't necessarily think that Riri needed to be in this movie. The humor when she was that they was playing, it didn't feel out of place. It didn't feel like, why are they just giving so many jokes?
She's a Bendis character come to life. Isn't that great? Like when I met her at Comic-Con and I was like, you speak Bendis. And in this whole movie, I was like, I can see the speech bubbles. This is correct. This is Riri Williams.
See, I guess I don't know the character well enough too. So the character fits exactly.
100%. So she's
literally she does. Tony, if I remember correctly, gets completely shocked by it because everything that he accomplished, like kind of 19-ish and then early 20s, she did it like 14.
Right.
And so he's just like, what the hell? And like ends up kind of mentoring her. Doesn't he ultimately die in her
an AI.
Yeah, exactly.
So he dies and he's the voice in her AI. So he lives in her head literally. She's in the helmet.
I think that they're probably going to.
What a way to bring Downey back.
Because I'm sure he would do that because that's what Bettany was doing the whole time. Before he became Vision, he was
2
just
days
out
of
here just
mocap.
talking.
Live your best life.
Jennifer Connelly did it in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think that Riri is great because her comedy comes from a place of trauma. Like, she loses her best friend. She's from a rough upbringing. She's dealt with a lot of crap. So I like that her comedy in this felt like it was reactionary, but it was legit. Her
You know
character.
what it was? I think that maybe what it might be, maybe after if I really enjoy the series and then I go back and I'll enjoy the storyline. Maybe because I think that I almost have like a Batman v Superman feel with her.
It's she just got forced into her.
Meaning that they just here she's in it and she's involved, and I thought she was going to be involved in maybe just that one storyline where she comes in, she does this, but she's getting kidnapped with her at point. She's going down to the thing. She gets thrown in. She's a normal kid who's working on this stuff, a normal kid in a sense to her. She's a genius, but she gets thrown into this and she's just right into it. It's my same issue sometimes when people just they're not tested at all, and she's in the main battle at the end, and you don't ever fear for her. She's gonna be okay because she's a TV show coming out. So but if it turns out that this show is really, really,
you might retroactively. Also, the bubble you talk about with us being, so deep in nerd culture, other people might not know she has a show. They might have felt the stakes. Like, what if they killed 100%? Like, she could have actually been killed off because this disposable new girl.
And that's my point, is that that's why they did it,
right?
Because for people who don't. Because they didn't know that, they didn't know she was getting a show. She was just a character in the movie, and now she gets a show. So their strategy is absolutely right. I'm just telling you the way that I felt about it, because I did know that the show was coming out. I did see the presentation at D23.
Right, exactly.
Right? So
It's what can be very hard sometimes about watching prequels, because
the stakes are
the stakes are lower, so you got to really bank off of something.
Yeah.
All right, look, man.
Loved this.
This is a great conversation. It was a good conversation. The movie's out. I really want to get your thoughts, so do me a favor. Go in the comment section. Let me know. Let us know. We're in there. We're talking to you. We'll make sure that we comment back and forth. We'll keep it classy if you can. Show a little. And we are very excited to be talking about this movie, and I can't wait to hear more about it. If you're brand new to the channel, do me a favor and subscribe to it, please. We're trying to get to 70,000 by the end of the year. That's something we're trying to do, and we need you guys to help us out. So please hit that subscribe button. If you haven't joined on Patreon, patreon.com/thebigthingshow, check that out for sure. Thank you once again to our sponsors over at Carbon Health. Really appreciate it. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Black Panther Wakanda Forever spoiler review. Thank you to Coy. Thank you to Winston. And we shall see you on the flip side.